I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Donnie, you're up.
I just wanted to get back with y'all to see where this meeting stood with the Amish and the manure bags.
Well, that was an executive session, so we can't really talk about what the content of that meeting was, but I can basically tell you that the Amish are gonna try to work with us, and re-educate their people, and that's about all I can tell you. I mean,
I had talked with Lydia over the phone, and she told me that a little bit, the same thing she didn't say because what you said, but they had told her, all you gotta do is tell us and we'll put the bags on. So, I'm under the understanding is all you guys have gotta do is get your heads together, get with whoever and say, okay, whether it's right now, what I don't know what you guys do, but it sounded simple to me, the way she explained it to me.
well, again, without going into too much detail, some of the horses get spooked with those, and so.
And the only reason I know, we've talked about that, the only reason they get spooked, because they don't empty them. Empty them. I mean, has that been passed on to them?
Well, there was, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them in here, and we explained what our issues were.
No, I mean, when they said something about, well, our horses get spooked, did anybody speak up and say, well, could you try? Once they start getting full, empty them out, that way they won't swing back and hit them and spook them. Did that ever even come up?
No, it didn't, Don.
Okay, well, then,
I mean, I don't know what else you want us to do. We talked to them. I mean, it's just like speeders. I mean, if these guys catch them, then they can ticket them. If they don't, then, I mean, it's just like everything else out there. I mean,
so I'm getting this same old runaround.
well, you're not getting a runaround. You're getting told what was told to them and what they told us, and that's all I can tell you.
I mean, I'm not being told what was, I don't see the problem, what the big secret is with that meeting, why we can't
It was an
know.
executive session, and that's the way executive sessions operate. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to tell you about executive sessions. That's the way they operate.
So I just keep coming back up here every month and
Sure, if you want to.
write about it, and nothing's gonna get done.
Yep.
So when's the second meeting supposed to happen? You said they would talk with their people and see what can be done.
They said they were going to talk with their people and try to re-educate most of them, or the ones that come to town. I mean, you're more than welcome to contact them yourself and talk to them. I mean, that's.
I don't know who the head honcho is to talk to, but the few that I have talked to have already told me there's gonna be a lot of them, they don't want them on there and they will not put them on. It's no different from you guys put up a speed sign like the new Howard Avenue, and we say, we don't want to go that speed limit. We're gonna go faster.
Don, when we catch those people that are doing that, we ticket them, just like we would with the horses.
Have you had instances where you have stopped them before?
The Amish?
Yes.
A
And
long time ago.
for that reason?
A long time ago, yes. I haven't had any.
So
You're
not recently then?
No, you're the first one that's brought that complaint to the police department's attention, and the only one who's brought that complaint to the police department's attention.
I know for a fact it's more than just me, but the others just don't want to come forward. I guess I'm just an a-hole because I'm the one that steps up and asking for something to be done. And the ordinance that you guys have, I don't have it with me, I left it at home. But I know there's ordinance that has to be followed by them with the speed going too fast, which we don't have to worry about that, too slow. I mean, there's all kinds of things, I'm not seeing being implemented. And by the way, just for the heck of it, when they take dumps, like for an example at the IGA and other places, doctor's offices, and they don't clean up. I just happened to see Waveland, I had a dentist appointment. They have a post over there and they've got a big bucket and a shovel and they asked all their patients. And they said they've been very, very good about doing what they asked to clean up. Has anything been talked about down here?
Well, no, I mean, private businesses don't fall under our purview of whether they clean up their horse poop or not, so I mean, again, I mean, if you wanna go out and talk to the manager at the IGA or any of the doctor's office,
No,
you're
no,
welcome.
I'm not saying, oh, well, I see what you're saying.
I mean, I don't, I mean, I drive all over Rockville. I don't see that much of it myself, but apparently you do, so.
Here lately, I have not been, but
Well, like I said, that meeting's been what, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
Probably a month, I guess.
And like I said, they were gonna talk to their people and, I mean, that's about all I can tell you at this point. I mean, the officers just told you that if they see one of them doing it, they will stop them and ticket them.
If you run into any, out and about, you got my number, give me a call. I'll run out and I'll scoop it and I'll throw it in the back of my truck. I mean, it's not that big a deal, I'll take care of it. Just let me know where it's at.
What do you want? You want me to tell Bill to arrest every one of them that doesn't have a bag? No, I mean, you're sitting there shaking your head. Tell me what you want. I mean,
it to be implemented with just what I said about, lady said, I don't know which one she's talking about, and it must have been one of the head honchos, said, if you want us to put them on, make sure everybody gets them put on.
well,
And you're, in so many words, saying, can't do it.
well, I guess we can have another meeting with them.
Well, I mean, they're aware of the ordinance.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
aware
it's-
of the consequences if they violate the ordinance. So if they choose to violate the ordinance, just like anybody else does, if they choose to speed or whatever, there's the potential for dealing with the consequences. So, I mean, we can't, you can put an ordinance out there, but you cannot 100% enforce it because we're not visually, I mean, they're not, the
No,
police.
I know you guys can't be every place at every time.
So our police department is aware, they're aware, the Amish community is aware of the ordinance and what the consequences are, so if the police observe it happening, they'll be ticketed. I mean, it's as simple as that. They're not gonna turn a blind eye. And the Amish community is very well aware of what the ordinance is. they choose not to put the bags on, they,
I've spoken to two that either they lied to me or they don't know, because I said something to them, and I asked if they knew there was an ordinance. No. Did you know that they've implemented? No, don't know anything. So they either lied to me, and you get things like that happen. And this is just ridiculous. You guys don't want to listen, you don't want to do anything, so.
Just as an option. Just something to
Well,
think about.
thanks, Don. Bill, you're up.
Just offer the solution.
they are not, they know. They know what the consequences are. If we see them, we ticketed them.
Okay, so I sent you guys an email. Chris has turned in his resignation, not written, but he has verbally communicated, said he will turn in the paperwork. 21st is gonna be his last day. So as I recommended, to decommission the canine program, sell the canine and the cage would be transferred. Also, sell Chris's vest at 80%. He's already used it for a year. They're good for 5 years. 80% seemed like a fair price. The $1,500 for the dog seemed like a fair price because we don't have that much invested in it. Most of that comes through grants and donations. The cage transfer would also include the sheriff's department paying to have it removed. The community foundation paid for most of that, so I think they would be pleased that it stayed in the county, in this community.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I think later there's something about the transfer of the canine funds that,
Nick's got some stuff.
okay. Cameron Martin was promoted to sergeant. And I would recommend that since Chris is leaving, that Cameron's pay be at Chris's pay for the rest of the year. We're not gonna be out any money doing that because Chris will be gone.
Would that be effective when Chris leaves?
That could be.
My only issue with that right now is we've got a budget meeting coming up next Monday. We don't have a full board tonight. I'd rather not vote on that. Will we have to change the payroll?
Yep.
So,
We'd also like to ask for permission to seek out the community foundation to get lockout tools for every vehicle. It's something that we use pretty regularly. We have incomplete kits right now in a couple of vehicles, but not all of them. So with 7 of them, that would be how much, Ian?
It's right around a little over $800.
Per vehicle?
No,
For
that's a
total,
total
okay.
for all 7 vehicles.
Ask away.
yeah,
And then we were going to be asking other places for other grants too, and we can bring those to you as we come across them, but we do have some other ones that we're going to be working on. So for October, officers worked 19 criminal investigations. Of those, 7 of those were violent. This brings the yearly total to 119, or 121 violent crimes at the same time for the whole last year. 51 entries in the ECWS were made. Of those, 3 felonies, 9 misdemeanors, 14 infractions, and 50 warnings. This month also included the annual Covered Bridge Festival. During the festival, officers responded to 168 calls. That being said, a lot of those calls, there's actually probably more than 168 because people will come up and talk to us, and it may not get called into dispatch if it's something like a lockout that we're right there by it.
Was it you talking about the cards that we're gonna ask people doing the parking lots, or was it you?
I was asking, one of the problems we have during the Bridge Festival, I think Nick was gonna bring this up, so it's a little early, but we always have problems getting people back to their cars. So I'd talked to Nick, and he thought it was a good idea, and I think he was gonna submit to you guys for your approval, was to make anybody that's renting a parking lot give some kind of, it doesn't have to necessarily be a receipt, a card, something with their address on it, so that way when they're going back to their place where they've parked, they've got that card or that receipt that shows where they're at, so we can help them get back to where they've parked their vehicle. Doesn't necessarily have to include a fee or anything like that, but it would be nice to have people issue out some kind of "you're here," so we can help find them and help get them back, because we've spent numerous hours helping people look for their vehicles.
Yeah, we can try that. I don't know if
How
we
many
can
different
force
parking lots
I
are
don't know
there?
if we
Paid
can
parking
force
lots. Again. And
private
then
properties to
private
do
people.
that, but, I mean, it'd be nice.
I would like to, before next year, pass some kind of an ordinance. I mean, it's already a law, but something that we can advertise ahead of time. People cannot put sawhorses in front of the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the road and then charge people to park. And I know of at least 3 places that do that. They put tape so that they have to move the sawhorses to let the people pay to park in the right-of-way.
Suits me, I mean,
We had 8 disabled vehicles, 9 parking issues, 11 property damage hit and runs, 16 medical calls, 50 traffic stops, 70 property checks, 5 animal complaints, 3 missing persons, 2 death investigations, 6 lockouts, 6 J4 services or paper service, 6 frauds or thefts, and 2 structure fires. In regards to year to date, 94 IDs, and these are violent calls in nature, 94 IDs, 91 domestic situations, 54 stalking, 50 impaired persons, 13 suicidal, 62 warrant service, 5 sex offender, 23 burglaries, 13 drug investigations, 9 fights, 3 pursuits, 3 shots fired, 8 child abuse or neglect, and 11 batteries. And that's all I have at this point.
okay. Well, thank you.
When's Brady's first day?
Oh, forgot to mention that. He's actually going November 18th for the processing part of the perf.
I remember you did say.
And then after he, hopefully passes that, then they said they're hoping to have the results by December 7th.
Thank you.
Good enough. While we're all here, sitting here, you are planning on coming to that budget hearing, right?
Next week.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it'd be a good time for the police department, or the, police commission, the safety commission to be there. So,
Brandy, are you gonna send out a reminder, or do you want me to email police commission?
I can copy it whenever I send out the revised for the executive.
well, are you ready?
Yes. Okay, I've got claims for 637, 867, 64. And there's also a end of October payroll claim that was separate printed for 76, 66, 61, 62.
I'll make a motion.
To approve.
And second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And yes, I did look for Park.
Oh, thank you.
He probably did too, he would have let us know.
So really, I just have those, and then I did have a request from Main Street on the street closure. They just wanted me to maybe bring that up and mention it again. December 3rd, they're doing their parade, so they'll want some barricading, I think, around the square whenever they probably bring their parade through. So we'll get specifics where that needs to be, but just so that the utility department's aware, the police department's aware, we'll work in conjunction with them on that parade and stuff and getting that help for them. She did send me the parade route if anybody needs, but I'm sure they'll put that in the paper and on their social media.
Is it ending up here on High Street? Isn't that what I read?
Yes, I believe. Yeah, it'll start at the
On
park.
Ha-
Was it at the
I thought
park?
it said at Park Heritage was what I
Oh.
thought.
My understanding is
On
this
Howard
is
Avenue.
Let me just
start
look.
at Park Heritage, come down Market,
Oh,
High, and
I
end
saw
on
tennis courts.
Jefferson.
Oh, okay.
Parade lineup at the tennis courts on Howard to Market to High and out.
Okay.
So yes.
They were concerned with the lighting on doing High Street due to winter time when it gets darker.
Right.
I just told her I would, I thought the approval and everything has kind of been taken care of when they initially asked for their request on events, but I told her I would just remind everyone so we could all be working together to make sure they have the appropriate equipment for their parade. So that is all I have.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, since Nick's not here, Jeff will get you up.
Okay. Still pending closeout on Community Crossings Grant 2022-1.
Is that not what we-
Community Crossings Grant
That's just a different
2022-2.
Just
Still waiting on the award notification on that. IMPA has completed their pole replacements for this year. They've done as much as they can with the funds that we had, and they will start back in January. They are ready to begin three-phase extension once we get the tree down on over by Sill Street. Yeah, I told Dan we'd try to have that down the next 3 weeks or so to get Britain free to work on that. Water and electric meters, street lights, the guys wanted me to bring this up, and we really need to start thinking, I need to add it into the individual budgets. With regards to water and electric meters, we're getting close to the end of their expected life cycles, which is around 10 years or so. So we need to start thinking about replacing those when we go into looking at rate studies and things like that in the future. Street light poles, we know that they're running close to the end of their expected lifespan also. One of the thoughts that Brett expressed was trying to get on a schedule where we've got 73 or 74 of the boogers, so maybe we just take 20 and do 20 a year for 3 years, break it up over some period of time. He also suggested possibly going with LED lights as opposed to the mercury vapor, I think is what they are, metal halide lights that we have now. So we'll look into that and give it some consideration, but just put that in the back of your minds as far as when we get down into the budget time, if we need to look ahead on that. Project status, the water improvement project, Cindy did get the second Okra application submitted. We'll wait to hear back on how that went. 41 North Sewer expansion, no movement on that. The guy still does not have any materials delivery dates. Of course, we're not giving a notice to proceed until he can give us a construction schedule. South Market Street, as you were aware last week, Structure Point has again the letting date from January 19th to March 15th, 2023, due to problems with the environmental document. I think I talked about that at the last board meeting, but just wanted to remind you of that. NDOT did approve the move on the letting date, but as Susie explained, that's it. There's no more room to move. If Structure Point falls short again, then what'll happen is it'll be pushed off till 2024, and we can't have that. So I've expressed that to Ken. Utility coordination continues. Notice to proceeds have been sent to CenterPoint Energy and Bloomingdale Home Telephone Company, so they're cleared to go ahead and start their process of moving what they have. And Jefferson Street project had a final walkthrough. There were 3 items on the punch list. One of them is a gas valve casing that needs to be raised to grade over by Parks Building, and also a storm sewer casting needs to be raised to grade so it's flush with the pavement. Also, we're still on the 2 light poles. I did talk to the guy from Central State and got him together with Halophane and John Linglade, the construction inspector. on getting those installed. So we'll get that wrapped up and taken care of. Talked to UMAC today about some of the things that we have on the books. Ronnie Jr. is out for another 2 months, I think, with some issues. And I told him, you know, at this point, there's not really a rush on the Martin Street project. As far as I can see, we'd like to get it done eventually, but I don't know that it's a critically urgent. Would like to try to still get some of the hydrants that we're concerned about back up and going. I know I have 3 that we ordered earlier last year that are ready to go. We just need to put them in. So, also the boring over at the depot, to try to get with Brett when he's able to get out a little bit and map out where that's supposed to go. So they,
charging station.
yeah. So they are aware that, you know, we have some things to do, but they're kind of like us right now. They're kind of just, you know, down some people, and that makes it better. So, let's see. Doug still needs to get the angle parking painted over the community foundation building from Jefferson Street to Market Street. And he'll get that done as soon as we get a hot second to do it. It's already talked about the charging station, Jackson, Voorhees, and Beetle. Roger did send us in a work order agreement to look at the water and the sanitary sewers along Beetle and Jackson, and to develop 2 preliminary engineering reports, one for the water mains and one for the sanitary sewer for use by the towns. And the cost of that was $81,460.61. I figured you'd want to have a discussion with the full board on approving or not approving that. Okay, so we'll table it, and I'll let Roger know. We'll get with him when you can on that. I already talked about UMAC report. Bruce, do you have anything to add? I didn't get to talk to you last week, I'm sorry.
Really, the only thing I wanted to add, we are gonna do land application this month, so
Okay.
that'll be happening. The project that's going on for the turkey run in Marshall, to pump their, who's in charge of that project? I guess I missed that meeting. I'd kinda like to be involved in that. I've got some good ideas for that.
Cindy Todd would be a good person to contact in regards
I'd
to
like
that.
to get involved with that.
I think we're gonna have a meeting,
14th?
it's the 14th.
I'll get a hold of her and see.
Do you have a contact
I
number?
do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a person in charge of that necessarily, but she's kind of coordinating things.
So that's all I have.
Okay. Decorative light replacement, we're still waiting to get that done with the electric department. I can tell you the fast-paced urgent care project, the water hookup has been completed there. And also we have a new transformer installed that will serve both the B&B and fast pace. And Brandy, I'll get an invoice put together for you for the water materials. Get that over to you as soon as I can. A late breaking item I didn't have on the agenda. Talked to Troy earlier this morning, and I think I mentioned this in the past board meeting also, but Troy and I have been talking about this lead and copper rule that's going to go into effect. And I mentioned that we're going to have to somehow come up with an inventory for all of our service lines, which is going to be quite a challenge. I spoke with a guy by the name of Steve Smith from Indiana H2O. It's been about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And I kind of referred him to Troy also. Well, Troy met with him and had a lengthy discussion. And I think they have just about as good an idea of what's going to be going on, and they have a plan for helping municipalities meet those goals. And I would like to ask your permission to schedule Steve Smith from Indiana H2O to come to a board meeting. The next one, I think, is what, 21st? Mm-hmm. And give you guys a little bit of a heads up on what they have to offer. And I think Troy will try to be here too and give you his input on some things as well. Any other questions?
So back on that real quick, how would they prove what's in there?
Well, that's part of it. You're gonna have to do some sampling and, the way the guy explained it to me is he has what he called a, predictive matrix somehow built into his program. And what that means exactly is I don't know. One thing I did forget is number 5, overlooked the electric department.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, Freudian slip, save the best for last, I guess. This one, I don't know, I'm of two minds with this because we already placed the order, and then Wellbridge came back to us and said, hey, on this order, we've got to bump your price up. And that, to me, it didn't sit right with me. But the guy went through and he explained this, that, and the other, and yeah, well, whatever it is, what it is, but man, that's a heck of a lot of money to be spending on poles.
Yeah,
If you quote a price and you make the order, it seems like they ought to
I
honor
would
the
have thought they'd have to
price.
stick to that.
Is there a written contract for purchase?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Is there another company that can provide what we need?
I talked to IMPA about this day or so after I got the email and sent it out to you guys. And they're supposed to give me some quotes from Westco maybe. I talked to their fellow that does their ordering. Part of the issue on this is the .45 Penta poles that we've ordered are going to be discontinued after January 1 because of EPA type restrictions. And so everybody's scrambling to get their hands on these poles because they're pretty good poles. And so I think what's happened is the Wellbridge has seen an opportunity to get a little bit better price and do a little bit of do whatever it is they want to do to try to make a profit kind of deal. So long story short, IMPA is thinking about going with a different treated pole using copper naphthene. They're called QNAP poles. They're treated a little bit differently than the Penta. I talked to REMC as well. They're not sure exactly what kind of poles they're going to go with next time. They're looking at the QNAP. They don't like the green treated poles because they're hard and they're brittle and they shatter. I talked to Brett and Dan. I said, hey, we need to get our heads around this because, even if we do go ahead and bite the bullet and order these poles, which I'm not saying we will, we need to have an idea of which direction are we going? What kind of poles do we want to stock and have here for the future? So, I guess I'm looking for a little bit of input from you guys. Do you want me to cancel this order from Wellbridge and go ahead and see what else we can get? Wellbridge also moved the delivery date out to December. In talking with IMPA, they can't get any other poles. IMPA can't get any other poles until February. So it's a crazy market right now on utility poles.
Do we have any in stock right now?
Yeah, we have a few, but I don't think that we have enough to do our 3-phase extension, our utility relocation. It'll be tight.
So what's the deadline on this order?
Just whenever we say. It's not gonna be here for a while, and I have absolutely no compunction whatsoever against calling them up and saying, yeah, cancel that order.
Well, before I do that, I'd make sure we can get some poles somewhere. I mean, would you guys agree, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need poles.
Or
Let me
order the
work on
bare
it.
minimum of what we need to get by, but at this point too, what's to say they're not gonna increase the price again and delay our delivery again?
Can you ask
So-
them to give us a contract for the purchase? I know they typically don't do that.
Yeah.
But they might be willing.
Well,
to.
that's what the guy said in this email, is he can guarantee us this new revised price,
Yeah.
Wow.
you know, till delivery date. So, you know, I've got that in writing, but I can ask for an actual contract.
Apparently, we need to do that with them going forward. It sounds like.
And the thing is, if I get a contract from them, that kind of enables or ties us into purchasing them.
Only for whatever we approve the contract for. Yeah. I mean, if it's a one-time purchase, they could still do that and just gives us, we have to cancel by such and such date. But I mean, if you have a purchase offer in writing, that's something I can use if we had to. But in the future, if they have a contract they use, it'd be good to have that. Most of them will just do it for a one-time purchase too. Although
This is who we usually get our poles from,
Yeah.
and a lot of that goes back to our relationship with REMC, because, you know, we order the poles about the same time REMC does,
Yeah.
and they say, hey, throw it on this truck, and we'll take 5 or 6 of our poles off, and then you just drop the rest of them off to REMC, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look into that a little bit more and get back with you folks.
I would check on it before we just cancel an order, you know. I mean, I agree with you, it kind of frosts you a little bit, but I mean,
It frosted me a lot.
kind of got us over a barrel too, so, or everybody actually, so.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones that,
Oh, yeah.
things are getting really, really tough as far as supplies and things like that. And I don't know where it's gonna end, you know.
Me either.
That's all I got, folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Jed. You're up.
So I had a few ordinances. One was for the Jackson Jacks parking lot. Bill and I talked about this, and Brandy and I talked some too. Just kind of setting out parking time frames. So we settled, and this is subject to your approval, obviously, at midnight, 12 a.m. Eastern Time to 6 a.m. Eastern Time. No parking at the town-owned parking lot located at the intersection North Jefferson and West York Street. It allows for them to be towed at the owner's expense, and a $25 fine per day that they remain parked overtime. Also, Bill and I talked about this a little bit too, as far as people blocking the entrance and exits from the parking lot, because I guess we've had some issues with that. It made that a Class C infraction with a fine up to $500 per day that they continue to violate that ordinance, and allows for them to be towed for that as well. But so this is set up for same day, same meeting consideration for you guys. But that was the first ordinance, 2022-12.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can you send me a copy of that?
Yeah.
Dave? Because, I know I wanna get some signage up.
Yep. And second one is in regards to the non-refundable electrical connection fees for the Bridge Festival. You guys had previously indicated that would increase to $75. This just formalizes that, amends the 2010 ordinance to make it $75 from $60. So it's set up for same day, same meeting also.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Third thing is a resolution 2022-15. It's transferring funds from the Canine Donation Fund 4603 to the Town Public Safety Fund 2250. This was at the request of Chief McMichael. As you're aware, that we're not going to have a canine officer going forward at this time, so this just allocates the funds to a different fund for law enforcement purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last one is a resolution for Okra funds, approving matching funds for the CDBG Okra grant for the water system improvement. It's just approving the funds from Town Water Improvement Fund and Town Water Operations Fund, and a loan from the Light Cash Reserve Fund. This was kind of put together with Parks input on it, as I understood it.
You didn't make any changes to that, did you? Because you sent me a copy, but did you change anything?
Cindy changed it.
Okay,
So,
then that's it.
well,
Okay.
actually, according to Cindy, Park changed it.
That's what she sent me.
So these numbers aren't
Okay.
numbers I'm aware of.
Okay.
These are numbers were put in by Park.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so it has 286,000 out of the town water improvement fund, 700,000 out of town water operations fund, and a loan of 919,350 from the town light cash reserve fund to the water fund, which, as we talked about, that has to be repaid within certain amounts of time, generally within a year. So that's something that Park has put in there, but it's subject to you guys' approval. It didn't have an attestation or a signature line, so I've added that at the bottom of it, which is fine for our purposes. This is just to document what took place.
To approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Where do you want me to sign this at, Nick, here or here? This one?
Yeah, just Dave sign and then Brandy attest. On resolutions, we don't have to have the full body do it, although we typically do. But.
Okay, that one. Well, what do you want to do with these? Is this,
So you guys sign in two spots. You guys sign on the spot to do it same day, same meeting, and then you got to do approved below or rejected below. In order to vote same day, same meeting, you have to have unanimous consent to do that, but all the parties don't necessarily have to vote in approval of it. They just have to vote to actually vote on it.
I thought they all had to be present.
All of the parties present have to approve to do it same day meeting. You don't have to have the entire body present. So if one of the four present here voted no, then we couldn't do it. But Park doesn't have to be here. And even if one of them voted to reject it and the other three voted to approve it, it would still be approved. So that's why you have it set up that way. I did have a couple other things. Get where I wrote it down. Okay. So we had those resolutions, and just a reminder. This is more to the town as a whole, but we keep having recurring people burning trash within town. We have an ordinance that prohibits any type of non-clean burning. If you're burning clean wood or things of that nature, that's one thing. But if you're burning trash or cardboard or things of that nature that are putting off an odor, that's prohibited. And I know this has been the same household doing this over and over again, but just kind of a reminder to everybody that if it's not regular firewood or things like that, you can't burn it in town. But we've seen that a couple times lately. Did you already go? Have you talked already?
I have already.
All right. Well, Bill and I kind of talked. We don't have to have a resolution, but the request was that leaving patrolman Chris would be allowed to keep his firearm. That's something you guys would have to vote on whether or not you're okay with him doing that. I think Bill had indicated historically that's something that's been allowed if they're over 5 years. But
He has had a combined active service of over 5 years. Also, we've had to replace the spring in that firearm. It's, I believe, the oldest firearm we have, and that's another way to get us to buy newer firearms and get the older ones that should be taken out of service.
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't have anything else. Unless you had questions.
I don't think so. Bruce, you didn't have any?
Didn't you read
Already
it?
talked.
Because we couldn't find that ordinance.
I do have one thing I would like to talk about. The town's been written up for the last 2 years for our infiltration problems in our sewer system. That's something we kind of need to address. I'll work with Jeff on that. We're going to have to put a plan of action together. And I do have a guy that has equipment to do smoke testing. I know it's been 20 years since we've done smoke testing in town. Might not be a bad idea to do a few sections and do some repairs just to make it look like we've done something, you know? So,
Mine in the town was smoke tested probably 7 years ago.
was it? So we're gonna have to come up with a plan and then, address some key problems anyway, so.
Was that when they did that? The town did that because they were looking to see her tapped on with their sump pumps and things.
Mhm.
I remember that being done. Yeah.
I thought that was in the early 2000s, and they've been done again.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing
I
it was like
remember smoke coming out of
2011
my
or so,
vents on the
'cause
sewer.
I owned a house when we did it.
It'll probably be a big key thing with this whole bringing Bloomingdale's and Marshalls and, that is gonna be a big kicker right there, so.
It's the 16th is the meeting. I'm at 6.
Okay.
But Cindy would be a good person to contact.
I'll get ahold of her.
I got a message from her, she's out of the office right now. Remember that ordinance that we couldn't find the one about parking stuff in front of and the side yards? You didn't? Oh, did you? Okay. Cause now it's moved from the side to the front, you know.
You can park it behind your house, right?
For a nominal fee. I've got a big spot back there.
You can't park it in the Jack's parking lot.
No.
I guess the only other thing I was gonna say was, and I forgot the figure, but, what the school brought in on the parking.
3142, I believe, on their parking lot.
I thought that was a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah, 3142. So I know they had a little bit of issues with some staffing and, you know, maybe not complete coverage all the time, but I think they did a pretty good job trying to, everybody's struggling with people volunteering, so they did a pretty good job with what they had available. So.
Struggling with employees when you actively pay them, let alone volunteers.
Right, exactly.
Well, does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, would like to thank my guys, a couple of fire guys for helping out Saturday with their cleanup day. Doug and John helped out quite a bit, and two fellows from the fire department, they escaped my memory right now. But also Brett and Scott and Dan were scrambling Saturday with the wind, and trying to keep all the limbs out of the roads and roads open, and various outages here and there. But I'd just like to give the guys a good
I
thank
was
you.
gonna say, I don't wanna jinx us, but I was, knock on
Knock
wood.
on wood.
Are we gonna be able to do any limb pickup, or are we just too short?
Well, I've asked people, they've been calling me, and I know they've called Brandy's office too, and I've just kind of put it out there that we can't do that this year, we're just too short-staffed. But I've also told them we do still accept leaves over at our debris bins by the firehouse just east of that. So if people can get them to us, empty them out of the plastic bags, then we can get them back to our compost piles.
So no leaf pickup or limb pickup.
Yeah.
Can we put that on the page?
You even put on your 2 open positions? No. At this point, I think we'll wait until we get an idea of what future salaries are going to be. I thought I had us a part-time guy, but he went to the schools.
What happened to the kid with the broken leg?
He's still doing physical therapy. Heard from him today. He would like to get back, and hopefully he gets released without restrictions. I wouldn't mind to have him back on staff. He's a good kid. Good worker.
Well,
To adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.